What is up? Welcome to Etsy Jam. This week we take our first ever deep dive into social media with Natwar from Around.io. Natwar shares insights into the big social platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter, but it doesn't stop there. We also chat about how to find and learn from your customers, making a transition from a corporate job to self-employed, and much, much more. Stick around for another great Etsy Jam. What is up? Welcome to Etsy Jam, the thoughtful podcast where we have conversations about serious topics. I am Gordon from Marmalead.
I am Richie from Marmalead. And if you haven't checked out Marmalead yet, Marmalead is the best Etsy SEO and market research tool for serious sellers. You should go check us out at marmalead.com, which is marmalead.com. You'll be happy that you did.
There you go. And we have a very special guest with us this week. We have Natwar from Around.io. Thank you for joining us, Natwar.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
And before we jump into, what Around.io is and what you're trying to solve for people and help people with, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure, I'll be happy to. So, first off, super happy to be on the Etsy Jam podcast, the thoughtful podcast. I'm Natwar. I started Around.io. It's a social media automation tool for e-commerce sellers, Etsy sellers, and more. Around 3.5 years ago now, before that, I used to work for a biopharma company as an automation engineer. Some great work we did there. It was amazing. But I always knew I wanted to kind of do something on my own. And before that, I was in Illinois getting my master's degree in information systems. Before that, I did engineering. So after studying and after working, I somewhere knew I wanted to start something on my own. And before Around.io, I started another company, which kind of failed miserably. We shut it down in 9 months. I put in a lot of my own money doing that, but made tons and tons of mistakes. It was a good product. People were using it. No one was ready to pay for it. That was the biggest problem with that online product. Mm-hmm. And we kind of shut it down. It was a emotional decision, but it was needed. Basically, we never thought of monetization in the right way. So those were the learnings that we I started with the second product, which is Around.io. And Around.io came into existence while I was helping out another tech company, another startup with their tech. And we were making Facebook stores for people with proper admin panel and stuff like that. And that was going well. And then I realized I can really automate a lot of things that people already do. Mm-hmm. So that's where we started. And it was a side project. We kind of put something together in 2 weeks and just put it out there. And okay, this is going to cost this much money. It was always, a paid product, never a free product. So that is something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, how to price your product and stuff like that. So because I had nothing to lose, I priced my product twice as the competition when I was starting up. Mm-hmm. Because I wanted to kind of make sure that people who try this product, I wanted to figure out whether people genuinely have this problem or not that I'm trying to solve. Right. So, of course, talking to people help. Looking at their behavior is super, super helpful. But money is something that really speaks the truth. If people put down money to use your product, that means they are getting value out of it. And if they're paying you month on month, mm-hmm. that is the best place you can be. That was the thought process of this side project. And then 3.5 years ago, it became a full-time thing for me. That's how Around.io started. Basically, I was just helping out Etsy sellers with their Facebook postings and how to automate that. And all I did was I went to 27, 30 different Facebook pages, which were Etsy seller pages, and saw exactly what they were doing, and then wrote some code to kind of automate that. And that's how we started, really. And at that time, I was doing a lot of one-on-one conversations. So basically just went to every single person that I knew on Etsy and then spoke with them and then showed them what we can do for them. And that's how we started.
Nice. So I guess the first thing you kind of mentioned, you had a product that you had before Around.io, which you said mm-hmm. kind of didn't do so well. Mm-hmm. Right. Totally cool. Awesome to recognize that. And I'm sure it was an mm-hmm. awesome learning experience, right?
Yes.
We always talk about there's always failures and you're not going to find success unless you try a bunch of different things. So, yep. But in pivoting from that, in shutting that down, you kind of mentioned kind of an emotional decision because you're so invested in it, financially and emotionally, right, in this product. But I think that's something that a lot of Etsy sellers might even be able to relate to, where they're artists, they're passionate about what they're crafting, and sometimes you kind of are faced with these numbers that you're looking at, and you're like, man, it feels like people aren't interested in buying this. I'm having a tough time finding customers, right? Like, how do you get over that emotional hurdle in deciding to, okay, I can still make something, but let's make it something else?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a great question. And I'll tell you, it was not, I probably should have shut it down in like 5 to 6 months, to be very honest with you, right? And I took it to like 8.5, 9 months. And I, of course, I put in a lot more money and emotion into it. But what I realized was, first of all, that was needed. And second, it helped to have like a buddy who could see my blind spots, like a buddy entrepreneur. And that helped a lot because this guy who was my friend, who is my friend, he was not as emotionally invested in the product. He could actually see it for what it was. He could see the numbers and tell me, dude, this is not making sense. This is just not making any sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of accepting the fact that, okay, this guy who is not emotionally attached to this, who understands this arena a little bit more, is saying it doesn't make sense, and I had to take that hard call. It is not easy. I mean, I delayed it as far as I could, really, and I still regret that I really took it further than I should have taken it, or should have taken better decisions early on. But I made certain things in this product that I was very clear, okay, if we don't make this much money, we'll shut it down. If we don't do this much, so we had certain red flags set up for ourselves. They were not like 100% hard red flags, but still they were flags that, okay, if this thing happens in this way, that's a red flag for us. We need to really take a step back and think about it. So, So for Etsy sellers, right, I see a lot of sellers, I'm sure you guys see this all the time, that they love their craft, they love their own product, right? You're loving your own product, but you're not able to sell it. That's a huge red flag. If people, no one else is going to be as passionate about it as you would be, but at least you should be able to sell your product, right? That's the baseline, right? And that's the difference. Like, I love how you guys say that Marmalead is for serious sellers, right? And I remember when you guys started saying that, and I'm like, you know what? That's such a right way to put things, because if you're serious about your business, right, then you look at it like a business. Of course, you'll have your passion and your art in one side, but there's a business side to things. And if it's not making financial sense, if it's not making business sense, you have to be hard on yourself and say, okay, this is not working. What else can I do that can work? And you have to try different things for that. So there is no like rule of thumb, or there is no one book that you can read, or one blog post that you can read that will help you get there. But it's a mindset of saying, you have to have very so one of my really good friends, he says this, I think someone else said this, but I heard it from him. He said, have very strong beliefs, but hold them very loosely. Strong beliefs loosely held is what he says, or weakly held is his word. And then when we write it, I'm like, okay, is it WEAK weekly or it's WEEK weekly, right? because things are changing so fast, right? We have to have strong conviction, but we have to look at data and say, okay, whatever we believe is not making sense anymore, we should rethink what we are doing, right? Yeah. So having that buddy definitely helps, who can be brutally honest with you, who you can you should be able to trust their judgment as well. That's also very, very important. You cannot randomly go to a person who doesn't know about your, arena, whatever you are in. You could be in vintage, or you could be in handmade and stuff like that. So having that buddy definitely helps, and that trust that, okay, this person is definitely trying to just help us, is needed. And yeah, I mean, being brutal with yourself, being honest with yourself is part of the game. It's one of those things that you have to learn to stay in the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's a good point. And I like, the idea of having those kind of red flags already set up ahead of time, that way when you see them, it's not as questionable, you kind of have thought about them and you have them in place in your mind ahead of time. That's good advice.
I'm not sure if you have read or heard about this. There's something called lean startup methodology that basically says, yeah, right, exactly, right. So that basically says you always start with hypothesis. You hypothesize that, okay, I'm trying to do this, and So for example, for tech products or for Etsy products, right? Etsy sellers can actually go to a market, a physical, like a flea market or whatever, and basically say, okay, if I don't sell 15 of these in a whole day, where there are hundreds and thousands of people are walking all over the place, then clearly this is not a product that I'll be able to sell, right? So having those, putting that hypothesis, the criteria, saying that, okay, I need to sell 10 of these in order for me to invest any more money behind it, right?
Yeah.
If you set that in the beginning, right, you are constantly, of course, you're going to try to optimize it, you're going to try to sell it, but at the end of the day, if you don't sell, you'll know, okay, you will have to be honest with yourself, saying, okay, I only sold like 3 of these, this is not worth my time and effort anymore, and I need to really rethink this, right? So I love those flags. As I said, even if I can get 80% of what I'm trying to get at, I'm usually happy with that as well. But you have to take hard calls. There is like no getting around that.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned that too, is this test is like going somewhere, like a craft fair, so physically being there, because it takes some things, some variables off of the table. You don't have to wonder, is my SEO in place, right? Like, are my product photos good enough? Where's my pricing at? Are these visitor numbers that I'm seeing like actual visitors? Or are they bots? Like, where are they coming from? What's going on in their heads? That you're at a space where the customers that are coming to you are there to see the craft fair. They're there for the show. They're there for the products. You can see them interacting with your things. Everyone's on a level playing field as far as, there's no photos or anything like that come into play. They're not reading a product description and being scared away or anything like that. So I like that idea of, your trial is potentially going somewhere and setting a limit for yourself. Like you say, 15 things. All right, that's it. I'm going to try to sell 15 of these things. And if I can't do it, maybe I should think about a different product.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't mean give
up. It doesn't actually. But one more thing that I have personally. So we were talking about my road trip, right, which was 1.5 years ago. One thing that I realized a lot, that happens a lot specifically with new Etsy sellers, is a lot of their friends and family will say great things about the art or whatever they are producing, right? And that's a huge, these people who are, giving compliments. I always say, compliment is great, but I'll rather take money, right? Getting into that mindset is very, very tough. I understand that if someone compliments me on something that I created, it'll be tough to ask for money. But what I'm trying to say is, the moment we get into that mindset of asking for money, hey, will you actually buy? Not will you actually buy it? This is $15 or this is $30, and if people actually take out their wallet and put down the money, right? That's the truth, right? Yeah. Compliment doesn't pay the bills, right? It's not going to pay anyone's bills. So that's something that I've seen a lot with a lot of sellers, that people, their family and friends would love their products, but they would not actually buy them, or maybe buy 1 or 2 of them and that's it.
Yeah.
But it's not for larger audience. It's not for even a niche, right? So that happens a lot. That's why testing in that market, which is neutral, which is out there, which is where people don't know you, really helps, because in the beginning you're just trying to figure out whether this product is going to sell or not, right? That's the goal at the beginning. So
Agreed. Even asking other Etsy sellers that aren't your customer, because I see that a lot too. It's like, you have a store, so you must know how much you'd pay for this, and it's kind of like walking up to anybody that is in a business of some sort. Like you're getting your oil changed in your car, and then you walk up and you're like, hey, how much would you pay for this headband? And it's like $20, and it's, you kind of have an idea, because it's not real though, right? So if someone asks me what I would pay for something, if it's not a real thing, if it's not you've got to actually take the money out of your pocket right now and give it to me, that's not real. I can just say anything.
Yep, exactly. And that is so important, right? So we do a lot of lean startup workshops with a lot of tech entrepreneurs. And this is the one thing that I always like. So the rule of thumb is, if you can, always ask about past, right? So that's at least in technology, and we can definitely create a one-to-one correlation in field of Etsy as well. When was the last time someone bought a handmade product, right? The moment you ask that, right, the truth will come out. So there are opinions and there are facts, right? Opinions are something that, this is $20. Yeah, it could be $20, right? That's an opinion. But I actually paid $15 for something last month. That's a fact. So getting to fact is very tough. So in these craft fairs, right, whenever someone is checking out the products, asking when was the last time they bought something similar to this or something handmade, which will always be more than a regular, Walmart or a Target brand, when was the last time that buyer actually bought something like this? Would give them a fact, right? So, separating those opinions and facts is very hard, but asking the question about past always bring out the fact. So that's something that I personally have seen work like greatly, because I ask this question, okay, what's the last app that you paid for, right? So I ask this question a lot to a lot of my friends and other people that we meet in events and conferences. Okay, what was the app that you paid for on your iPhone that you're still paying for, which is monthly, right? So that really brings out the truth, because you might be saying, hey, Natwar, your product is worth $50 a month, but I've not even paid $1 for any app in my life, right? Then your opinion really it won't have that much weight for me, because your behavior is saying something else, right? So that's so true, just opinions and facts.
Yeah, well, you snuck in another good point there too about at the craft fair talking to the people that are coming up to you, right? Like that's a great opportunity. Those are your customers, like they are there in the first place, so that's cutting down a huge segment of the population who doesn't even have an interest in handmade things or vintage things, whatever they're shopping for. Not only that, but they saw your booth and they chose to stop at your booth. So you have something there that they see that they're interested in. Those are your customers. And a lot of people on Etsy are super nervous to start conversations with people who have bought from them in the past. Etsy has rules about, you can't solicit to customers and stuff like that. And a lot of sellers take that as you're not supposed to talk to your customers. And so at a craft fair, that's a great opportunity to strike up a conversation that's going to happen naturally. You're face to face with these people and you can talk about whatever you want, but they're your customers, right? Get to know them and take notes about the things that you're learning about the people that are coming up to your booth.
And I couldn't agree more. And one rule of thumb that we always kept for us was, the emotions, right? So we had signs for emotion while we are taking notes. So for example, if someone took a step back after listening, after hearing your price, or they got super excited, you want to capture that emotion, because that's that instant emotion that comes out, that's the truth. Because after that, everything, we'll think and we'll put it nicely and sugarcoat it. But you want that raw emotion to be noted down for you to kind of go back and look at, because that's the truth, right? That's the reality. If someone really got excited after listening to your story and your price, and you want to capture that, because you want to share that similar story with other people, and that's how you kind of capture that okay, this is working for me and this is not working for me. So
that's fantastic. So did you have little icons or something like that? How did you?
We did. We actually so we had icons and shapes for this. So for example, of course, smiley and sad, and then neutral faces. So three things. Smiley face, sad face, and neutral face. They're very clear. You can kind of give it back and forth. And we had very simple. If someone is super excited and they actually took out the money, so we'll actually put a dollar sign so in the emotion section, meaning they actually gave the money, right?
Nice.
And then there are other kind of things that people will give you, like for example, they'll give you their email, their phone number, right? That's a different kind of currency, but it is still currency. And then we'll have, for example, if someone is asking a lot of questions, if they're genuinely interested, and at the end, so after asking all these questions at the end, are they giving you some kind of currency or not? That will define the importance of those questions. What I mean by that is, I might just show that I'm genuinely interested, but I might not be. Because at the end, after answering all the questions, if I'm not giving you either my money, my email, my phone number, then all those, we'll put a triangle to it. And then if it works out well, at the end, they're happy with their answers and they give you some kind of currency, we'll put one more triangle, so it'll become star. So a lot of questions will just be a triangle, and then if something good happens at the end, you will put another triangle in the reverse, so it'll become a star, right?
Nice.
So suddenly it's a good conversation, or not a conversation that you want to really emphasize on.
So that's how triangle could just be for someone that's polite.
Yeah, someone that's polite and asking a lot of questions. There are a lot of people who will ask, how did you make this? What kind of material did you use, right?
Yeah.
And you might start to think that they are genuinely interested. So you'll put a triangle next to their name or whatever number your ID or assign them. And then at the end, when they're gone, depending upon the result, you will either put a reverse triangle on top of it that will become a star or not, right? Depending upon how it goes.
Yeah, that's cool. Clever.
Yeah.
And you do Around.io full time, right?
That is true. I've been doing it for 3.5 years now, full time. Yes.
Oh wow. Okay. So When you started, were you full time right away on this, or was there a point in time where you transitioned to it?
I transitioned into it. So I was working in East Coast for a biopharma company, and I moved back to India because of visa issues, right? Either I had to have my keep my full-time job and then do startup. Then I was not able to be honest with either of them, right? So I tried that. I really did. It was not good. It was not a good time.
Yeah.
So then what I did was I moved back, and I basically quit my job and moved back to India. And because I'm a resident, I'm a Indian, so I can actually just own my business there. That's not a problem, right? So I started there, and at the same time, I also joined another startup because I did not know the ecosystem that well at that time. So basically, just helping out another company with their technology and stuff like that. I was with them for 6 months, kind of took the technology to one place, and it was all set. And then kind of transitioned out of there. Since till then, around I was already an experiment, and we're already having Skype calls and conversations on phone and stuff like that. So it needed more attention that whether this is going to be something that's going to down the line deliver enough value to customers and generate enough revenue or not. So that's the phase that I was like, okay, let's transition and let's figure out if we can do this or not.
Wow. So I mean, was that a big decision for you when you're thinking about leaving your pharma company where you were working and doing work you probably enjoyed, right? Very happy with that, but in your gut you knew you wanted to do something more entrepreneurial. Man, that's a big decision,
That was a big. Just imagine you have a paycheck coming in, which is pretty good, and just stops, right?
Yeah.
So it was not an easy decision because, of course, paycheck definitely, and it was good. It was a really good job. It was not a bad job. Like a lot of people who quit their jobs, they're like, oh, I hated my job. I was not like one of them. I actually loved it. And then at the same time, so when I moved back to India, my longtime girlfriend, we also got married at that time. So that was another, thing that, okay, do you really want to quit your job right away, or you should want to wait? But you have to take certain decisions in life that are tough, and then you have. So I actually saved up for 2.5 years. I planned. I actually was saving up so that I have some runway of living a decent life when I quit, and even if I'm not generating revenue.
Yeah.
So basically, from the first startup, another thing I learned was you have to have at least 2 years of runway, at least in technology products. And we cutting down our expenses very, very heavily. We lived like a very frugal life for 2 years, and it was absolutely worth it because we had runway for 2 years, and my wife also works, so that was not a problem. But we could live off of the savings if need be.
Yeah.
So that was one of those things that kind of really helped because you see, okay, this is gonna last me for so long, and I can do these things because if you have that kind of money, then you should try it because otherwise you'll just. I do not want to regret it when I'm 50. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. My wife and I both worked at a much larger company a long time ago when we were first out of college, and I ended up switching to a smaller company after that. She stayed there for a while longer, and then when she was leaving and kind of moving on doing something else, she talked about lots of conversations that she had with older people at the company that were just kind of in awe over her leaving, right? And they're kind of like, man, I wish I could leave. And she's like, what are you talking? Like, of course you can leave. Like, what do you mean you wish you could leave? Like, and all of these people were confiding in her with these feelings of like, they're just doing that for the paycheck, you know what I mean? And their heart really wasn't there. They wish they could do something else. And she's like, man, it kind of made her sad to like hear from all these people, that like you come to work every day and you're working with these people and you're just thinking they're kind of the mindset of like they're happy doing what they're doing, and then you find out they're not,
Some of them might even be people you look up to. And you're thinking like, and then that kind of shatters your world because like, wait, what?
Yeah. Like, you're not happy? You look so happy in your job, right? Yeah.
And they're like, I've been doing this so long, I got you.
That's right. I'm really good at pretending. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. But yeah, luckily, touch wood for me, my wife loves to work for a big company, right?
Yeah.
She actually enjoys it. She likes the processes. She enjoys those things. That's her forte. So that works out really well for me, if you ask me. I got lucky there that one of us could always stick to like a more dependable job and stuff like that, and I could kind of experiment with my life a little bit. So yeah, that worked out well.
Yeah, that's perfect because you're back in the States now, right?
Yeah. I'm full time back here, and we're living here right now. For a whole year and a half, we had both homes in Bangalore, India, and here in Fairfax,
Oh, wow.
Virginia, and we were maintaining everything was two, like, two cars, two everything, like two kitchens, two TVs, like everything was two rents, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of really, that was not very smart, but we were not sure what we wanted to do. We might want to live somewhere else as well, because we can, luckily.
Yeah.
So going to a different country somewhere in Europe as well is, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how things go.
Nice. Nice.
Yep.
So, all right, thinking back to when you were just first getting started with your Around.io concept, and you're talking about how you're having Skype conversations with customers and things like that. When you were starting to do that customer discovery, how did you go about doing that? How did you go about identifying who is your customer?
Okay, so I kind of learned from my, of course, the first startup and doing a lot of attending and doing a lot of lean startup workshops, was the most important thing in customer discovery is customer behavior, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to define the customer behavior. Of course, defining demographics and target market is one way to do it, but defining what kind of behavior you are looking for in your customer can be really, really game changing, because first of all, it is very clear and concise, and you get to the right place, you talk to the right people. So what I did was I went online and kind of just started spending 7 hours, 8 hours on Facebook every day, Facebook and Twitter. And then I've kind of found out these are the people who are already super active on social media. These are the people who already have very good and active shops. These are the people who already have figured out how to take photos for Etsy, how to kind of do everything else, do SEO, do description and stuff like that. And they're already being active on multiple platforms, right? So that's how, so my set of criteria was very simple. You have to have a decent Etsy shop which has decent amount of sales, like in at least 3 digits. So 100 sales was my criteria in the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And you have to have at least 2 active social accounts. When I say active, I mean you're posting on a daily basis, right? Okay. So that kind of, and then best part was I could do all of this without talking to anyone, to figure out who is the person that I should kind of approach and try to talk to, mm-hmm. right? So that sorted very well. That sorted a lot of things for me very well. And then just spending time online and making list of these people, and then approaching them one-on-one, being very clear about what you're trying to do, and being respectful about them as well. Mm-hmm. It actually worked out well because I spent a lot of time in Etsy communities. So somewhere people knew, that okay, there is this guy who knows a little bit, and I would respond to people's questions. If I don't know something, I'll go read about it, I'll learn about it, and then I'll respond. So, and I never, as a rule of thumb, would put down my my website below my comment, right? So that was basically, if you're in the community, you go and you help the community first, mm-hmm. right? You basically earn enough points, you earn enough respect from the community that when you actually go out and ask people to kind of buy your product or whatever, they look at you and they see, yes, this guy has given enough to community, and then now he is right to kind of do these things, right? Mm-hmm. Making friends with admins of Facebook groups and stuff like that, and basically just helping out. That was really, really helpful, because I was not trying to sell in the beginning. I was trying to understand and learn, like just basically have conversations in the beginning, right? So that helped a lot. Yeah. Being very clear about, okay, I'm not here to sell right away, right? I'm here to basically understand these people's need and see if they genuinely have a problem. So that really helped a lot. For a lot of tech products, a lot of people just go out and send ads and stuff like that. And we still do very, very, very limited ads, for the kind of things we do. We're very clear on that. And somewhere there is a bandwidth problem as well. I don't have enough time to run the ads, but yeah, in the beginning that helped a lot. Mm-hmm. Being part of the community, helping people out before you ask for anything in return. At least for technology products, that help. I'm not so sure it kind of converts 1-to-1 for Etsy sellers. Yeah. As per se, but if someone came to me and said, hey, I'm looking for this, and I see that you do something similar, then I will not hold back. Then I'll go all out and explain what our product does and what it can do for them and why they should try it. Yeah.
So that's a good segue too, because that's what I was going to ask you next. You know, you mentioned with Around.io helping out with setting up Facebook pages and stuff like that. I know you do a lot more than that. You want to give us kind of a rundown of lots of the features that you offer, not just for Etsy sellers, but other e-commerce sellers too.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to. So, Around.io, it helps you automate your social media marketing on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Tumblr, all these places. We integrate the shop in a way that you never have to kind of upload any other new photo because you already have a photo on your shop. You'll be able to reuse it. You'll be able to make collages out of any of your photos. You'll be able to find very, very interesting content that's going to do well on social media. You'll be able to find really, really cool blog posts using RSS feeds. You'll be able to find great GIFs, to post for Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, whatever, right? GIFs are doing really well anyway. And you will be able to do all of this, plan and schedule all of your social media marketing from one place. We are already working on multiple accounts, meaning a lot of customers which we have at the moment have multiple shops. They just don't have Etsy shop. They also have a Shopify store or a WooCommerce store. So enabling them to add two stores into basically one Around.io account is something that we're working on. And another thing which I'm super, super excited about is the videos. I believe I showed some kind of sneak peek to Richie at the conference. And now we are very, very close that so basically people will be able to create videos in like 2-3 clicks, very, very specific to, for example, Black Friday sales or Christmas sales or just regular product videos using their own images, and they'll be able to put text on top of it. They'll be able to kind of preview it. They'll be able to kind of see how it goes and then finally post it on social media as well. So videos is something that's doing really well. And I'll be honest with you, we've been trying to do this for like more than 3.5-4 months now. It's a lot of work, but oh my God, it's amazing. Like the end product looks great. I mean, and the testing that we have done so far, right now we are getting like 25x, 30x engagements on videos as compared to regular posts, which are image or collage. Collage is doing really well, but video is like outstanding at the moment, right? On each and every platform, specifically Facebook and Twitter. So kind of investing a lot in video part. Another thing that we kind of want to do is, I don't know how is your guys' experience about this is, the things have changed over a bit of time, right? In like 30 years ago, people would create brands and then they'll have products and then they'll create brand next to the product, right? On top of the product, basically. But with social media and in last whole decade, right? You'll see everyone technically is a brand. Every single person is technically a brand. They have on 1 or 2 platforms, they're very active. They have whatever things happening. And then people kind of start to get into products, right? So that's something, that's the 1% company concept that we are kind of thinking more and more about now, that the 1% companies in US are going to be the next big thing, are going to be the biggest customers for products like Marmalead and Around.io. And reason and I'm sure you already know this, Etsy sellers, right? Most of them are 1 and 2 people companies, right? Most of them are people within the family who are doing these things, right? So that's growing, right? That's growing, and the next generation that's coming out now, they want to do more and more. They want to do more and more things in their own way, according to them, right? And they have already created certain amount of brand on social media. So the question comes down to, can we enable them quickly to get from brand to being a product plus brand, right? How can we do that, right? So for example, a lot of people would directly go to Shopify or Etsy and start their stores and stuff like that, and they already have some social capital built in. So that's something that we are thinking about very heavily. And that's part of a much larger picture, and that's what I was sharing in the beginning, that this is where I believe products like us are going to grow in next 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. These 1% brands are going to be much bigger. So I call them micro brands. I mean, I don't think I call them, like someone else called it micro brands, and that kind of stuck with me, that okay, that makes sense. A lot of people are just micro brands who are trying to sell their products, which makes sense. So enabling them to do better online is going to be really, really big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome about the video too. And since you guys are hooked into so many different social platforms, not only are you helping them create these videos of their products, but instantly share them through their social channels, which is sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Oh, I cannot tell you how excited I am about that video part. It's just not, technically, right? We try to get something done in 2 months and then it goes 3 months and 4 months. But yeah, that is something that we are struggling with. But the product, the whole thing looks so good. Like I'm super happy about how it's going to come out.
Yeah.
So yeah, already testing with people. So people are getting great results. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, and video is huge.
Very
It's
cool.
only going to get bigger too, I think, Hopefully Etsy starts integrating it a little bit better. They've already allowed people to put a video on their about page. It'd be sweet if they would allow a video slot on a listing page too, so you can
I
kind
am
of handle
pretty sure
something.
they will. I am pretty sure they will.
Yeah.
I've not heard from them or anything like that, but it just makes 100% sense to the way Etsy is going, right? The way
Yeah.
they are kind of changing things. It makes 100% sense to kind of allow people to add videos and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean they
People are
expanded
still so
it.
nervous about getting in front of the camera, but at least doing something with the product.
Yeah.
I like what Zappos does. Not that I really watch shoe videos, but I like that they have them. Have you ever seen these? For a lot of the
Yeah.
different shoes, they have some, like, they hold the shoe, they walk by in the shoes, and it's just, I don't know. I'm not sure if I find that really compelling, but I like it because they put the product out there, and it's like, look, this is exactly what you're getting. I'm turning it, I'm walking in it, and they kind of describe as they're walking in it. They're like, oh, it feels like this. It's soft, it's firm, it's like it bends really well. They say things that I don't know. I'm sure it's building more trust in the actual product and like really just helping to answer some of those questions you might not have thought of.
Yep. And I couldn't agree more with you, Richie, that people are so afraid to get in front of camera, and I, somewhere I get that it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. So we thought that, okay, do we allow people to kind of take their own videos and using their own products? But then I thought people already had this, right? Their behavior says otherwise, right? Their behavior is saying that they're not going to get in front of camera. So how do we solve this video problem is we take the data which is already out there, which is their photos, and people would not mind putting text because it's just typing, right? And that's why we came up with the fact that, okay, let's stitch together some photos, give them really good transitions, give them a compelling way of sharing, and that will work for masses and not like, because just creating video is not for everyone, right? Zappos is of course an amazing company, and I know you've seen these Amazon products. A lot of Amazon products also have these video where there is no human being, but just product either it's in a 360-degree view, or they've stitched together some images that kind of talks about different ways to use the product and stuff like that. That works really well, at least for me. I mean, I like it because at times you're buying things that like, I'm not sure, and I don't want to get into hassle of buying it and then returning it. Those videos really help out. So let's see. I mean, we'll know more as we get more data when we share more videos.
For sure.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so living in this, the space between kind of e-commerce sellers and, social platforms, have you found that certain social platforms are better for engagement for e-commerce than other ones, or is it product dependent, or have you seen any patterns in that space at all?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, these patterns are changing so fast that what was true a year ago is not true anymore.
Yeah.
A year ago, images were doing really well. Now videos are doing really well, right? There was a small phase where GIFs were doing really well, right? Now, as far as the engagement goes, right, or the reach goes, video tops everything at the moment, right? For e-commerce sellers, a lot of people are frustrated with Facebook, right? And I get that. But to be honest with you, it's still the biggest platform. It is still, you just have to know how to do it right. And you have to have the right kind of people who are following you on that platform. I mean, I've seen people selling a lot of products just on Twitter, just on Instagram. Of course, Instagram is doing great. But the moment we start to look at Instagram or Snapchat or for like newer social media platforms, we think that Facebook is old, but at the end of the day, it still has, almost 2 billion people using the product, right? 1.5 billion people using the product. That's a lot of people, right? You just have to know how to do it right, and that's the biggest problem that people struggle with. And being brutally honest with you, it's not something that you can learn overnight. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's a muscle. You have to develop it over a period of time. A lot of people just give up very easily. That I'm not getting instantly, 100 likes on my post, so I'm not going to do this anymore. or my reach is very down. My reach is only 200 people, but that's 200 more than that's 200 more than zero, right? If you're not active there, people are not going to see your products, right? That's just a fact. And I cannot emphasize this more, that SEO is the best strategy for long-term e-commerce. There is no doubt about it. At the end of the day, there is only so much search that's happening. So in the piece of the pie, there is something that's always going to be on search, and you should never ignore it. In fact, you should start there. You should always try to understand the search engine optimization. At the same time, you have to have other avenues. It could be social, it could be email, it could be anything else. You have to have other avenues from where you're getting direct traffic as well, right? So it is a strategy that people will have to accept. Otherwise, they struggle. We all know a lot of Etsy sellers struggle with traffic and sales, right? And the biggest thing is they're not thinking of getting more avenues where they're going to get traffic from on a constant basis, and this has to be relevant and recurring traffic, right? It cannot be one article that someone posted and then you get a spike and then it's all a downhill from there. So that is something that's that people struggle with. That's just a fact.
So for an Etsy seller who maybe wants to get started with social media, or maybe one who's dabbled in it before and didn't really have success with it, and they're want to kind of like restart the whole process, how would you suggest going about doing that? Would you suggest somebody kind of like picking something like Instagram and doing a deep dive into learning about just Instagram to begin with, or spreading it out and seeing like where the engagement starts and going that direction? How would you suggest someone who's just wanting to get started in it or kind of restart their process go about doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as a rule of thumb, I would only start with no more than 2 platforms. You should try to kind of so first of all, what is it that you already know, right? Let's start there. Excuse me. If you already know Facebook, if you already know Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, whatever, but you already know, you always start there. Because you want to get certain quick wins in the beginning to kind of keep your momentum and motivation going, right? So start with what you know, and then the next thing is you always take one more kind of challenge and then kind of deep dive into it. For example, there are a lot of people who already understand either Instagram or Facebook, right? I would say just stick with it in the beginning, like give yourself 4 weeks, set some traffic kind of goals, saying, okay, I'm going to do this much, and set some realistic traffic goals, saying, okay, in 1 week you will know how realistic your goals are, and then you can kind of adjust them accordingly. And then kind of go into the next platform, and then go into the next platform. Now, for example, if you don't have amazing photos, it doesn't make sense to go on Instagram because you're not going to get engagement, right? So you have to understand from the platform context as well. You have to sort your photography first before you can do really well on Pinterest or Instagram, because they are 100% visual platforms, right? For Facebook, you can do a lot of other things, but for Instagram and Pinterest, it's very brutal. You have to have great photos, right? So it also depends on what you know and what your strengths are, right? So I might be great at Facebook, but I don't know how to take great photos. Then I should not invest directly into Instagram. I should maybe try to start figuring out Twitter, at the same time start learning about photography, how to take better photos, right? So there's no one rule of thumb which kind of works for all. It really depends what your strengths are, what you are comfortable with. You always start there. You always want to have quick wins in the very beginning, and be very clear that those quick wins are not always going to be there, because once you start to deep dive into one new platform, it's going to take some time for you to see results, right? And you have to be comfortable with the fact that I'm learning something new. I'm learning something that's almost a moving target, right? And it's okay that I'm going to fail a little bit. I'm going to learn from this. That's just part of the game. At the same time, I always recommend people to keep investing in their email lists. That is something that not a lot of people do, but it's still one of the best ways to kind of get very relevant, very good traffic back to your store. And of course, SEO, right? There is no going around. You can do all of this, and if you leave SEO out, you're not doing it right. So basically, if you're starting out, right, so you have to have this balance. But if you only ask for social media, I would say start with something that you're comfortable with, and always deep dive. Try to learn one platform at a time, a new one, and expect that it's going to take time to get results. and of course be clear that that platform is different. So if you're very witty and very quick with jokes, go on Twitter, and reply to people, and make them laugh. A lot of media outlets pick up these things, and you can really get decent amount of traffic and some kind of uh, audience behind you just because of that. So playing on your strengths, right? So that helps a lot.
That's awesome. And I really like you mentioned, set goals, obviously, right? But then, after a week or whatever, go back and see how you did and adjust your goals. And I think that's a really important step. I'm glad you mentioned that when you're talking. That's great.
Yeah, because in the beginning, right? I'll tell you, we were starting to SEO. We were thinking, okay, in 3 months, we should start ranking for these things. We should start getting these many, people directly or using SEO to our website. And in a month, we realized, okay, this is a very long game. It doesn't work that way, right? And we kind of readjusted our goals, and we set goals for 6 months then. And since then, we have been able to kind of keep them up and saying, okay, every month, actually every week. Today's Monday, so I just got a report this morning saying, okay, these are the numbers, right? Okay, we are not doing well here, and we are doing well here, right? So basically, going back every week on your numbers is just a habit that you want to develop, even if the numbers are bad, right? Going back to numbers is very, very important.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to ask on behalf of our audience here, because I know their next question naturally would be, how long? How long do I have to wait to get results on these things? And it's probably platform dependent and stuff like that. But we hear this a lot with SEO. I make a change to a listing. How long, should I be kind of keeping an eye on it to know whether my changes were good or not? So do you have a good benchmark for that?
I actually would love to hear your answer first, if you don't mind. I mean, I do have an answer that I can share, but I would, because SEO is much different than social, right? And I really want to understand what you guys say, because it's not an easy thing to answer, honestly.
It's definitely not an easy thing. Just strictly talking about Etsy SEO by itself, I mean, because Google SEO and other search engine SEO obviously is a totally different beast, but we usually say about 30 days. If you make a change, monitor it, keep an eye on things, see how your views are going and your sales are going, but give it like a good 30-day window before you start to kind of draw answers on that, right? You don't want to make some changes to your listings and then within a day or two be like, oh my gosh, it's not working, or oh, this is fantastic, I'm going to do all my other listings now. We usually say about 30 days.
30 days. Yeah, that's I'm sure you have, like, there's a reason why you say that. So for social media, right, it really depends upon, again, going back to what your strengths are, right? Where do you already have audience on one of these platforms, right? For example, there are a lot of people who have built up their own personal brand on, let's say, either Snapchat or Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, whatever, right? Can you go there and actually get some people to your store and actually get them buy, right? That's number one, right? And I have seen Facebook video. So I have seen, like, in last 7 months or so. So I know people who started in February and only did videos, and they're doing some crazy stuff with videos, and not specifically just like small e-commerce shops, but like big e-commerce shops as well, investing 100% in video, right? Because they understood that, okay, we are starting late and video is doing really well, let's invest in it, right? So just understanding that part and being saying that, okay, even if I'm uncomfortable with this, I'm going to try this, right? And they've done a brilliant job. And I've seen people who have had, hundreds and thousands of likes in past, but now they don't have a lot of reach because they've not been doing things right. They've not been posting content that's engaging to their own audience and stuff like that. So as a rule of thumb, I always say, what do you think you're good at? That's one. And then go there and then give it at least 2 months. Try, because see, even for individual platforms, there are so many different things you can do. It's just not easy to kind of do it in like one day and then like, oh, it's not working. No, it doesn't work that way, right? For certain audiences, just images are working so well. So Instagram is a great platform. I know there are people who are posting on a lot of public boards on Pinterest and getting decent amount of traffic because their images are just beautiful. Like, it just stands out when you open Pinterest.com, and if you on screen, if you see 7, 8, 9 pins, it will stand out because they are done so well. They are so thoughtful, right? So depending upon really your strength, it can change a lot, but 2 months is nothing, to be honest with you, in this. And that's why, using that word serious sellers is very, very important, because that sets the context that, okay, you're in this business, right?
Yeah.
For us, right, for you and I, email marketing, you guys have been doing email marketing since very beginning, right? I love getting your emails. I still read your emails because you actually have a persona behind that email, right? There's a human being talking in that email that builds up, right? And that didn't happen like in a week or 5 weeks or 10 weeks, right? It took years of work. So to build anything sustainable is going to take time, and the moment until unless sellers understand that and accept that, okay, and that's going to take time. It's very very tough. You cannot just constantly look for that dopamine hit that, oh, I got traffic. It's not going to work that way. So being honest with yourself, saying that, okay, it's going to take time, and I'm going to give it 2 months of honestly trying it before I saying, okay, this is not working.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. You talked a little bit too about maybe a social platform where a seller already has a presence. They're personally there. They've been using it for a while personally, totally separate from their shop, right? And that's sometimes a good place to start because you already have a personal audience and stuff like that built up. What sort of advice would you give to people as far as what do I do? Like, do I use my personal account and start? Let's pick Instagram, for example. Let's say I have an Instagram. Do I use my personal Instagram and start sharing, photos of my products that I'm making, maybe some of the process of making these things, material shots, things like that, and talking about my process and stuff? Do I, make a whole nother account for my shop and start to try to push some of my personal audience to that account? How would you suggest people do that?
I would ask always people to kind of, so different people have different comfort zone here. A lot of people don't like that they have to use their personal thing for their business. I would say in the beginning when you're starting, you have to use that personal brand that you've created. So I would actually change my account to my business account right away, the same account, and I'll still keep that personal touch there. But I would definitely start doing what you said. Some of the shots for the things that I'm buying, the things that I'm preparing, some work in progress shots, and I would not overload it, but I would kind of ease people into it. But yeah, I mean, when you're starting, yeah, you got to use the currency that you already have, the social currency, the social media reach that you have. You have to use that in the beginning. And over a period of time, you can kind of change that account into your business account and stuff like that. What people do is they convert their main account into the business account and then open a personal one separately. That works very well because that gives you some ground, like somewhere to start with. Because if you're starting with just business account right away, there's crickets there. There's no one there, right? So you'll just not hear anything. So it's always good, as I'm saying, right? In the beginning, you need those small wins to kind of keep your motivation up. But you have to be honest with this, that okay, over a period of time, I might be able to convert this 100% business and start my own personal account, Instagram account, if it is Instagram, separately. And it'll just be for my friends and family where I don't talk business, if that's something that you want. But I would definitely start with where you have social currency and where you have eyes right now.
Awesome. Great advice. Yep. Anything else you wanted to throw in before I forget?
I think we've talked about a lot of things. Just thinking this whole thing like a business. I mean, creating is like half of the business. That's it. That's all it is. And after that, making sure that you can sell it is other half. And you can sell it on a consistent basis, not just like you created one thing and then you are able to sell it. It's how. So the difference between a hobby and business has a repeatable process of selling things, basically, right? How to get you have to have a repeatable process, right? So for example, if you go to, let's say, a flea market and you're able to sell everything that you bring, that's great. Can you keep doing that? If you can, that's great. That's a repeatable process, right? Same thing is true with online, right? Are you getting are you getting sales when you're doing ads? Are you getting sales when you're doing postings? Are you getting sales when you're doing email marketing, when you're doing your SEO, right? Finding that repeatable process is the only way to kind of define a business, right? Otherwise, it's just a hobby that you're serious about maybe, but that's it. If you don't have a repeatable process that you can say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and these things should happen, right? That's how you should define your business, and that's how you should constantly think that, okay, what are the repeatable processes that I can put in place so that I have constant and relevant traffic in place?
Nice. And when you were talking about Around.io earlier, you said we. How many people do you have working with you?
So right now it's a 5-member, including me, 5-member team. Yeah, 2 in tech, 2 in other stuff like writing blogs and marketing, stuff like that. And yeah, I kind of do nothing really. I just sit and talk to people. So yeah.
You're free to go on podcasts.
Yeah, I'm free to. That's why, yeah, pretty much. I talk to people. I see if we can do better partnerships and stuff like that. And that's my way of kind of getting to that process where how can we get consistent and relevant traffic, right? That's also so like putting those processes. So right now, in the beginning, I was very, very involved in everything, right? Technology and marketing. Now you basically we have set a process in place that I don't have to do a lot. Basically, team is able to handle everything, and now I can do different things. So taking yourself. I believe Richie and I had a conversation about this when we met last. So
yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because we have exactly 5 people with us too, so we're exactly the same size. Kind of cool.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So and I guess you're also 100% virtual company, right? No, you don't have any office or anything like that, right?
No, yeah, correct. Totally virtual and very distributed too, as far as where our different people are around the world and everything like that, which it's been nice.
Yeah, same here. It can get late nights at times for me, but yeah, same here. Exactly same. So yeah.
And so Around.io, we haven't spelled it yet. It's AROUND .io if you want to find it online. We also link to you guys through our Shop Fitness Calculator, so if anyone hasn't gone through and done that yet, as part of the results page that you get, we'll make some recommendations depending on your score and show you different ways you can influence things. And part of bringing new traffic to your listings is social, is a good strategy. And so we actually link to Around.io through there too. So if anyone doesn't remember how to spell it, you can find it there also.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, thanks a lot for having me, and it was great chatting with you guys, and we can do it again in a few months.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe, it's so much fun that I'm thinking that I should start one, but I'm like, oh, it's a lot of work, man. I cannot do it. So, I thought about this like 3-4 times. I'm like, no, it's a lot of work. I don't think I'll be able to do it. So, it's great that you guys are doing it on a week-on-week basis. That's just a lot of commitment. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. It's because of people like you and guests and stuff like that we're actually able to do it. I think if it was just Richie and I, we'd struggle to come up with things to think about every single week of the year.
Yeah.
We do our best.
That's a true story.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
It is fun though. I mean, I've definitely enjoyed doing it. Richie says he enjoys doing it. Between watching Zappos videos, it sounds like he probably does. But yeah, no, it takes a fair amount of time. It's a decent amount of work, but it's always fun to do it. And we turn these things into YouTube videos and iTunes, Stitcher, and then we throw write-ups on our blog too that Jade puts together for us. So we kind of use these things as a big content piece for us in Marmalead. And then that way too, no matter how people want to consume the information, you don't have to have like 2 hours at a time to sit down and listen to these things if you don't want.
That's true.
You can read through them on the blog.
Yeah, actually that's true. That helps. Trust me. At times I just read. I'm like, oh man, it's like 1 hour and 45 minutes. I'm not going to listen to 1 hour. I'll just go through the reading thing and it's like 15 minutes and you're done.
Yeah, there's back when I had a commute, I was a big podcast listener and I had all my regular shows that I always listened to, and some of them were super long, right? And so I'd actually in my app, I would turn the speed up a bunch, like, oh, this is on 2 times speed here. I can probably process this fast.
Yeah. I did the same thing with Audible and podcast, man. I mean, that's like YouTube or podcast, you can always 2x it, and you kind of get used to it in like few seconds. Like, I can consume that much.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes they're really dense and they cover a whole lot of information, or they speak quicker, and I'm like, I can't do 2 times speed. I can't even keep up. My brain doesn't function that fast. But yeah, anyway.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fantastic having you join us. It was awesome to finally get to talk with you. We've kind of had our business relationship between the two for quite a while. Yeah. So it was awesome to finally sit down and video chat with you for the first time.
Yeah, definitely. It was great. It was great to be here. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. For everyone else, we'll see you guys next time on Etsy Jam.